Nation, what's up? Happy Thursday. Welcome to the live. Stoked you guys are here. I'm stoked to talk Wisconsin bourbon today. We've got Brian back with us. Brian, welcome.
What's up?
We missed you, man. I mean, what you been up to the last couple weeks?
Everything and nothing at the same time.
Okay. Cool, man. Cool. Mentioned tonight we're talking about Wisconsin bourbon. Our guest. We're the hosts. Our guest is waiting in the wings. We have J Henry from J Henry Sons in, I think it's technically Dane County, north of Madison. Couldn't tell you the exact municipality. We'll let Joe tell us in just a minute. But Joe is one of the sons of the J Henry Sons. I don't even know if he's a junior. We got a lot of stuff to ask Joe, but in my opinion, J Henry is the best bourbon producer right now in Wisconsin, or they're at least the ones to beat. Driftless Glen also has some good stuff, but I think J Henry. What I'll say is it matches my desired profile a little bit better. But we'll welcome the man now. Hi, Joe.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thrilled to get into this. First, just tell us, what your exact role or title is there at J Henry.
Well, that's kind of I guess not really a trick question, but an interesting question. I mean, we're a very small family business, so kind of do a little bit of everything. We'll talk a little bit more about this, I'm sure, later, but my family owns a small seed farm just north of Madison, so it is still in Dane County. It's right on the border of Dane and Columbia County. And then we also started this bourbon venture about 12, 13 years ago with my dad. Really started getting into it. So I guess my major roles are doing a lot of the shit that nobody else wants to do on the farm. Kind of being like the owner's son. I just, get stuck doing a lot of the crap jobs, which is fine. And they make fun of me for it, and it's all good, in good fun. But as far as the bourbon side of things, I do a lot of our blending, and I'm also our only sales rep. So I put a lot of miles on my car when we're not in the farming seasons for seed corn. And then I help put all the blends together, pick out the single barrels, do a lot of work in the rick house and stuff like that. So yeah, a little bit of everything. We kind of all have to wear a lot of hats.
Yeah. I mean, Brian and I both work in specialty coffee. Yeah, that similar vibes. Like if you're an executive in specialty coffee, that just means that you're the first one there and the last one to go home.
Every day, right?
Yeah, right.
And the last one to leave usually.
Yeah, thankfully there's plenty of coffee though. It's helpful.
Yeah.
All right, well, yeah, we'll get in to the family story, how you guys got into producing bourbon, and then more of your role in that here in just a little bit. But we'll hit it, start it. Kick it off with our little buffet of bits, and that is, what are you drinking tonight, Joe? Why don't you start us off? What are you sipping on while we chat here?
So I've just got the classic J Henry small batch bourbon. The light's not really that good. I did not drink all of this bottle before we started today.
Okay, that's good to know.
But that's kind of our flagship bourbon. Very, very solid whiskey. It's a blend of 20 different barrels that I hand pick, and based off of their individual flavor profiles, kind of combine them into something that is consistently delicious. We proof that down to 92, and everything is at least 5 years or older in those blends.
Oh, nice. I didn't realize that. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Do you guys release actually anything that's not 5 years?
No, we set out on this venture really because I guess when my dad was starting, kind of the standard in Kentucky, or I guess not the standard, maybe the minimum requirement in Kentucky because he went down and did the bourbon trail with my mom, and that's kind of how this whole thing got started. But their, minimum requirements is it has to be a straight bourbon, which means it has to be at least 4 years old. And so my dad, being the overachiever that he is, just said, you know what, screw it, we'll wait another year.
Yeah, I've been around some overachievers. I'd say I work for one. I'd say I was born to one. So I probably have it in my blood a little bit. But I think that's a great place to start. And I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. But one of the things that set you guys apart in the local market, at least, is that you're releasing a well-aged product. I think a straight bourbon can technically be straight under 4 as long as it's age stated. If it's under 4, it can be it has to be 2 years to be straight, but then you have to put on there that it's under 4 years, 2 years or 3 years. Unless it's 4, then you don't have to age state it.
See, you know this better than I do. It's 2 years is straight, and then 4 years you don't have to put the age statement on it. And so we went with 5 because we were proud of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Stuff every day.
Yeah, well, and I think again that sets you guys apart because some of the other producers are releasing young stuff, and Brian and I, we're not against young stuff. I actually ordered something from Still Austin the other day. That's a 2-year-old product that's supposed to be really good, but by and large, whiskey needs more than 2 years, more than 3 years to get to be good. I've had a lot of craft whiskeys this year, and a lot of them need more barrel time. So yeah, I'd say that 5-year minimum is definitely something you guys got going for you.
Yeah, it's kind of it's fun to be kind of emulated, because now what we're seeing is a lot of the Wisconsin producers holding their stuff back, and the ones that were releasing 3 or 4 year old stuff are holding a lot of their stock back so that they can come out with 5-year-old product. And I just think that's great that I wouldn't say set the standard, but when we talk about Wisconsin whiskey and Midwest whiskey from a craft perspective, we're all really in this together against the Heaven Hills and Jim Beams of the world. So it's a really collaborative approach, especially in the state of Wisconsin. And we'll get into this a little bit later, but for example, 45th Parallel out of New Richmond does all of our distilling for us. I'm really good friends with the owner of Dancing Goat, Nick Moss, who you guys should talk to and have him on the show.
Yeah, I emailed him today, actually.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Hopefully he's watching. He's a funny guy to have on these sort of things. And I'm good friends with Justin Sharpie over at Driftless Glen as well. So,
great.
We're all tight. We're all in it together. And it's as long as we're all making good Wisconsin whiskey, then people will keep on drinking good Wisconsin whiskey.
Awesome. Yeah, going to Dancing Goat for a minute, I loved the Limousine 6-year cask strength release.
Oh yeah, they're just coming out with that now, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, last year they had dropped it. I think it was just before the holidays. They're still around, and I keep talking on the channel people, you need to go buy this rye. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
I might have a sippy sip of that while we're on here. But all right,
you share it with me.
Yeah, one of these days, somebody will invent the teleporter and the Star Trek.
And then you could send me some of that Scotch Malt Whiskey Society too. Back there.
There's there's going to be some of that in my future because they do cool stuff. They do
really cool stuff. I usually get my mom, my dad, and my brother a bottle of their products for one holiday a year because it's just so unique and such cool Scotch.
Yeah, and they've got everything, every profile under the sun. But so yeah, we're 10 minutes in and we haven't gotten past the first guy in our first bit. So
sorry.
No, this is great. This is going to be an easy one. Brian, what are you drinking, man?
I am not drinking J Henry. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm going to break the mold. I am sipping on some Saz Rye. It's a pick from a group out of New Orleans. So a guy had come up and he said, "Do you want one of them?" And I said, "Yeah." Okay.
How does that compare to the standard Saz profile?
It's been a long time since I've had standard Sazerac. So, when I had standard Sazerac before, I thought it was okay, but a little soft. And then this one has a really good nose, a lot of like medicinal cherry, which is not awesome, but it's still got an inviting nose. On the palate, a little bit thin, a little bit more spiced. There was one I tried, but at the same time, I just finished a humongous chocolate milkshake.
Okay.
But everything will be thin after that, right?
Yeah, I have no idea. But the other day, it was probably a month ago, but I tried another one that someone brought back from New Orleans somewhere. I don't know if it was the New Orleans house or where, but brought back a whole bunch of them. My buddy gave it to me in a blind with some other things, and I could tell it was Buffalo Trace Profile, and it tasted like rye, but it didn't taste like E.H. Taylor, and so, but it also tastes a lot richer than Saz. And so I was like, what is this? Like, is this Van Winkle rye? Did you give me Van Winkle rye? It's got like oak and stuff on there. He's like, no, it's this Sazerac rye pick. And I'm like, I need that. So I haven't picked one up yet, but the guy who brought some back apparently has more, and I want to grab one of those. But this one's fine. I just wanted to, this is after my chocolate milkshake. This is just my entry pour, and I've got a couple other things over here that I'll get to as the talking goes on throughout the night.
Of course. Nice. Well, I started with the standard Smoke Wagon straight bourbon. I was looking on my shelf, and if I'm going to taste whoops. Hold on one second. I accidentally clicked over a window on the internet, and then I started hearing myself talk. That was bad. Anyway, I wanted to pick something that I was like, okay, this is going to be comparable age-wise to J Henry, because that's what I'm drinking next. This is a Woodman's barrel pick from years ago, and Joe and I were talking about this right before we came on, is that you can't, like, if this was released today, you wouldn't be able to get it, but it's actually at the grocery store right down the road. So if any of you are in Wisconsin and you're looking for a J Henry barrel pick, go to Woodman's in Oak Creek. There's probably 2 or 3 cases left. So good tip. And I'm going to go to that right after I come off the Smoke Wagon. I wanted to get palate acclimated with something in the kind of general vicinity. The Smoke Wagon is nice. It's MGP, so we're going to put J Henry up against the big boys. It's got berries and rice spice, but it's kind of light and grainy. It's not bad at all for standard kind of everyday bourbon. That said, I want some more viscosity. I would love a little more barrel influence on it.
And I don't remember if we talked about the uncut unfiltered. I think I remember you trying it alongside of the small batch, like many lives ago.
Yeah, many moons.
But I finally got my own a month or so back. Popped it open, dude. I love that bottle.
I only had the one sample and I enjoyed it, but I'd like to try some more at some point.
He talks about blending them to be like unique experiences or whatever, but the batch I had, I think it was 61, was very nice.
Cool. Nice.
I haven't had anything from them. I've been hearing a lot of really good stuff, though.
The dude's
they're out of Nevada, right?
Yeah, Las Vegas.
Nice.
Yeah, the dude's a character. Haven't talked to him yet, but his videos are pretty funny.
Really?
He's got to shoot ski. He's got to do he's got to go out to a range.
Roundups.
Choke rattlesnakes or wear them as what are those things called? They're not
a bolo tie.
He's got to probably use a rattlesnake like a bolo tie or something.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's kind of, and so that's a bit of a magnetic vibe that they're putting out, and then they're sourcing or have contracted for well-aged MGP, and everybody wants that, So
yeah,
that's gonna generally help. Yeah, I don't think they're actually distilling.
They're one of the biggest,
Yeah, I don't think they're distilling. I think it's all sourced. So I think they probably do have a contract with MGP, because it seems like they're getting new distillate. Yeah. All right. You guys pick anything up this week? Pick up any bottles?
I'll let you go.
Brian, get anything?
Or do you want me to start? I'll start again, I guess.
Okay.
So,
go.
I've been experimenting. We've got a new product coming out later this year. that's finished in Armagnac casks, or hopefully later this year. So I got a bottle of Delord 25, which is a really solid bottle. I think it's anywhere from $60 to $80, depending on what state you're in. But that's one of my go-tos and kind of the inspiration for this new product that we're coming out with, which should be hopefully this fall. But if it's been aging in there for about a year and a half at that point, and if it's not ready, we'll just let it sit a little longer. But hopefully we'll have that out. And so that's why I've been drinking a little bit of Armagnac lately.
Nice. Yeah, I've got these Scotch Malt Whiskey Society bottles just this week, and they're each very different, each amazing, utterly amazing. Very thrilled with that.
Did you get one of the like 3-packs?
I also have a sampler. Yep. So
nice.
Those are, so I got 3 of the full ones, and then the samplers are like I don't know, 200 milliliters. Yeah. And then Eric picked up a bottle of the Woodford Very Fine Rare whiskey for me a while back. That I haven't picked it up yet, but I haven't announced it yet. So. And I still have to pay Eric. So I'm paying him this week, and I got to get that bottle from him. He also got me one of the Cat's Eye light whiskeys, 16-year pick from, was that the bottle shop you were at, Eric? Is that where you got that? I'm pretty sure Bottle Shop Craft, and a 375 milliliter of that, for $35. I've been hearing a lot of good things from these light whiskeys. It's MGP light whiskey that Cat's Eye, has been sourcing
from Iowa, right?
Yeah, Gene Nassif. Yep.
Yeah.
So I was like, I need to try this, and it was $35 for a 375. I'm like, that's really reasonable. So that's what I got this week, and now I'm going to try not to buy much. Well, besides the J Henry, so it's a bottle acquisition week for me. Not going to buy anything else for the next few weeks because I've got that Kentucky trip coming up here.
Oh, nice. Yeah, you gotta save up for that.
Yeah, I want to pull a couple Four Roses distillery picks would be great. Maybe swing by Heaven Hill. I'll be going by Bardstown Bourbon Company. So
nice.
Yep. Yeah, and they've always got stuff on their shelf too that's great. Need a Discovery Batch 5. Batch 4 was so good. Batch 5 has been kind of around, but I haven't seen any on the shelf. I've seen other people posting them though. All right. Great. Well, let's get into it. Nation, if you guys in the chat have any questions for Joe, just make sure you at me too so I can see it, or at Brian so we can, help you all participate in our little chat here.
Yeah, there we go. All right.
Yeah.
I just switch this over so I could see everybody.
Yeah. Dan says he picked up a Cat's Eye Polish rye. That's I've got that Polish rye too. I mean, it's finished, but it's delightful. I don't care that it's finished. All right, Joe. Well, we're gonna start with just a little bourbon introduction thing, which is, tell us, how you came to love it. If you do love it, if you don't, then we're probably talking to the wrong guy.
Yeah, totally. Well, I'm not the wrong guy. That's
okay.
Sure.
That's good.
Well, I mean, like any good Wisconsinite, started drinking well below the legal age, I suppose.
It's more of a guideline.
Yeah, I think I always tell people this rule, or this like kind of weird law in Wisconsin, where if you're under 18, you can go to a bar with your parents and they can buy you a drink. But if you're between 18 and 21, it's illegal for you to drink. So it was it's funny. Like a lot of people in Wisconsin are drinking like up until they're 18, and then they don't stop, but it's more frowned upon if you're technically underage. So
that's weird.
It's super weird. It doesn't make a lot of sense. My parents weren't really buying me a whole lot to drink when I was 16, but it was happening, unfortunately. But so I've been kind of drinking a little bit for the better part of a decade, and I started really getting into whiskey probably when I was in college. And you all start out with some of your most notable brands, Jim Beam, Wild Turkey. Wild Turkey 101 is actually something that I usually keep on my bar at home. Just because I think it's a really solid high rye bourbon for like $20, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And you can't really beat that. There's a lot of good stuff from Heaven Hill, but Wild Turkey specifically has always been kind of a little special place in my heart. And another funny story about Wild Turkey is I actually went down there. One of my buddies moved to Louisville probably 4 or 5 years ago. And so I went down to go visit him. We did a bunch of distillery tours. And I told him we have to go to Wild Turkey. I have to try and meet Jimmy Russell because I've been drinking this stuff since before it was cool, or before it was cool for me to be legally drinking it, I suppose.
Sure. Before it was cool.
Yeah, exactly. And so we went there, and I drove. So like I had a bottle of J Henry in my car. It was a bottle of our Patton Road. So what you're sipping on right now. And it was sort of funny. I started talking to him, and because Jimmy sometimes sits in like the gift shop area and signs bottles, and just kind of hangs out and talks to people and answers their questions after the tours. And I was starting to talk to him, and I'm like, got into this. You got any advice for me? And he just kind of was like, well, you got anything for me to try? I'm like, you sure Campari's not going to get pissed at me about this? He's like, I don't give a shit. I've been here for so long. And so I run out to my car, and it's hot as shit in Kentucky, in the middle of summertime. So the whiskey's all warm, and I'm super nervous. And
yeah, you're about to have whiskey.
I'm like, this guy's a legend. He's one of the old guys from the old school that's still around and still kicking. And I mean, that guy still tastes every single day and puts his input into what they're putting out of that massive distillery. And so there's a picture of me. I've got it. I don't have it right now, but of me just pouring like J Henry in the Wild Turkey gift shop and drinking it with Jimmy Russell. And then he signed my J Henry bottle, and I signed like one of his Wild Turkey bottles. And he says I came back like 3 years later, and he said he still has that J Henry bottle that I signed, like sitting behind his desk, which I thought was really, really cool. Yeah. And he remembered me the next time I saw him. He's like, oh yeah, you're that kid from Wisconsin. Like, you still doing that? Keep doing good stuff. Like, don't rush anything.
Nice.
Like, wow, that was sweet.
He says, you name this Jimmy Henry now.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'm going to name my first kid Jimmy or something like that.
Yeah.
Because I got to do something with a J,
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. I know. Is your dad's name Joe as well, or is it?
So
are you Joe Jr.?
I'm not a junior because his middle name is Gerard and my middle name is Zachary.
Got it.
But another funny thing is everybody on the farm just calls me Junior or Soft Hands because I lived in Chicago for like 5 years. So I guess I developed like really soft hands living in the city and not working on the farm for so long.
That's funny.
So going back to the origins of all of this, you mentioned family owned a seed farm. Is that something that started with it wasn't owned. It is, they own it. You guys own it. It's you, the family owns it. God.
Yeah. So,
good grief. So was that started with your parents, or is this like a generation after generation thing, or what's the story there?
So we're, my brother and I are technically the third generation for Henry Farms. My grandfather bought the property that we're still on, which is just off of 9094, like 30 minutes outside of downtown Madison.
Yeah, it's a lovely area.
Yeah, it's a beautiful property. And we've been raising hybrid seed corn on that property and kind of throughout southern Wisconsin until today. We still farm about 1,500 acres of hybrid seed corn. Which is sort of how we got into making whiskey. On that trip that my dad and mom took for their anniversary, they just see, I think they went to Wild Turkey, and if you go there, they've got grain silos that are bigger than our whole farm, and they've got rail cars full of corn getting shipped in like every other day or something like that. And they're bringing in more corn from all over the United States than we've made in our entire like 80 years as a farm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they do that every single day just to make all the bourbon. Yeah. So it's crazy to see all that. And my dad, who is a master agriculturalist in the state of Wisconsin, he saw all this corn coming in and was just like, well, you got to make this corn to make this good whiskey. And I've been making corn my whole life, so why don't we try making bourbon with it? So that's what they decided on, like the drive back from Kentucky through Indiana, when you're also driving through a bunch of cornfields, sort of had that epiphany. And that's where the whole idea started.
Nice. So what did that process look like for your parents then? Like, because it's a big, totally different operation to go from, farming seed corn to like, okay, now we're going to make bourbon. And you guys took a unique path in that you're using your own grains, but you're not distilling. So tell us about the trade-offs and why and how all that works.
Yeah. So when we were coming back, I mean, both my parents enjoy wine. I wouldn't say they're like cork dorks or anything like that. But they understand kind of the idea of terroir, which as a farmer, you have to really live in that environment. Most farmers are living in that terroir, and that concept where you're growing something that has the flavor and profile of the region that it comes from. I mean, it's a French word, so it obviously originated in France, specifically with French wine. And that concept with wine in particular has been around globally for hundreds of years. But it hasn't really been around at all with whiskey. I mean, you do get it a little bit in Scotland because Scotland has so much variation between the different regions. But you haven't really experienced that in whiskey on a global scale for maybe like within the last 50 years is when a lot of global distilleries have started popping up. And in the United States, I mean, 95% of the world's bourbon is still produced in 3 counties in Kentucky, Yeah. So you're starting to see, and you guys mentioned a couple other like craft distilleries all over the United States. You're starting to see that kind of idea of terroir take off and grow into these kind of sub-micro regional whiskeys throughout the country. And that's sort of what they were thinking is, we grow some of the highest quality corn, specifically in Wisconsin, and the region that we're in, South Central Wisconsin, has some of the best seed growing climate of anywhere in the country. Obviously, like you think about Iowa and everything in the Corn Belt, and that stuff grows, but it's grown to be extremely high volume kernels as opposed to high quality. And that's really the major difference between what we grow and what like people are growing down in Iowa and Indiana and stuff like that, is they're producing a high number, huge volume of kernels, and we're producing a smaller number of very, very high quality seed corn. And so taking that idea, we didn't want to use just the same like yellow corn that everybody else was using. We wanted to pick something that was really unique to kind of the state of Wisconsin and encapsulated that terroir concept. And so there was this really unique varietal. It's called W335A. It's not a really sexy name, but
no,
corn varietal. So I'll tell you a little bit later. We're working on a more sexy named corn. But what we're doing is this specific varietal was developed in 1939 by UW-Madison's Ag Research Department, and then raised by my grandfather on our property that we're currently on from when he purchased the farm in 1946 until, the mid 70s when GMOs became really popular. So This W335A has got this really dark, kind of unique red color to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if you've gone on our website or seen it, there's pictures of it. It's really a beautiful looking kernel. And so they wanted to.
So it is a sexy corn, is what
it is. Now we're getting into some sexy corn, man.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to use something that was a little sexy, I guess, because, you got to make corn sexy in this industry. From Mojo. Yeah. Thanks, Monsanto. They're the devil, if you ask me. We won't get into that whole idea right now. We're supposed to be.
It's not a corn podcast. Yeah,
exactly. So because that specific kernel, it's like red. It's this really pretty corn. It was developed only 30 minutes away from where our farm was. My grandfather raised it. My dad remembered like growing up with it. So we just wanted to use that specific corn. Unfortunately, it went extinct more or less in the mid 70s when GMO grains kind of took over the entire seed corn market. Mm-hmm. And what that means is this heirloom varietal produces only about like 60 to 70 bushels per acre, which a bushel is like 52.5 pounds or something like that. It's not going to be on the test or anything later.
That's good.
But the more progressive GMO corns produce upwards of like 200 to 250 bushels per acre. So like no farmer in their right mind would be growing this stuff when they can get almost 5 times the yield from these more progressive strains.
Right,
so
right.
Nobody would have kept growing it. It would have gone extinct. But luckily, because it was a parent grain that the UW-Madison essentially developed, they held a small seed sample in what's called a seed vault, which is like a temperature and humidity controlled vault where they keep all these different seed samples essentially just for research purposes to see how far we've come. And so that specific varietal sat there from like the mid 70s until about 2005, 2006.
Jeepers.
With my dad's having this idea to kind of, reinvigorate the terroir and kind of start the terroir of Wisconsin whiskey off with this ancient heirloom varietal. And so we went to the university. We kind of talked them into like loaning us this little seed sample. And we thought we were going to get like a 50 to 80 pound bag because that's what you get when you're buying seed stock. And they really handed us like a manila envelope full of 1,200 kernels. So like,
good luck, guys.
Yeah. They're like, okay, have fun, you crazy old farmer. And then, so we grew that. It took 3 full growing seasons. So from 2006 until 2009, we repropagated that W335A from 1,200 kernels into about 100 acres. And now we're the only people growing that specific varietal, and we only grow it for our J Henry Bourbon. And to take that like one step further to, finally come up with a sexy name for this sexy red corn, we're working with a couple agronomists and seed geneticists to rehybridize that with some more progressive red corn to create our own proprietary J Henry red heirloom corn that yields a little bit more, but still has all like the favorable flavors that we want. And so hopefully within the next like year or two, we'll be growing exclusively like J Henry red corn. And if anybody's got any ideas on what we should name that stuff, send them over to me.
Dude,
because,
sexy corn. Just
yeah,
call it.
I think maybe.
That would be amazing. That would make the news headlines, no doubt. Like that would show up in the New York Times, if, like brand new, cutting edge.
Yeah, Wisconsin farmer grows sexy bourbon corn.
Let's go. Yeah,
let's go.
You heard it here first. Awesome. Yeah, thanks for that background. That's super, super cool. Now, in terms of contract distilling versus building your own distillery, when it comes to starting with your own proprietary grains, hey, we want to make it with our stuff, we want to do something different. When it comes to actually producing this stuff, What was that decision like?
Yeah. So, I mean, unfortunately, when my dad inherited the farm from his father, he inherited it with a lot of debt. So for the first several years, he was working his ass off just to pay off a lot of this debt. And so to start a venture like this and to actually open a distillery, it's really expensive. I mean, if you want to do it right, the equipment is a lot. You got to hire a lot of people. And at the time, we were really, or my father and mom were really kind of like, let's just make this stuff, see if people even like it, and not put the farm up for collateral and potentially lose it if we have
wise
investment. Yeah, because they knew going into that they didn't want to make gin. They didn't want to make vodka. They wanted to make 5-year-old bourbon. And so, you gotta be continuously putting barrels away and making that investment, and essentially just sitting and looking at your retirement fund in a warehouse full of wooden barrels filled with whiskey. And so that's why we made the decision to, instead of building a distillery and then finding our customers, we wanted to build a brand and have the customers find us and then kind of work up to our own distillery. So like I mentioned earlier, Paul at 45th Parallel up in New Richmond, we've been working with them since our inception for the most part. And they're great to work with. If you haven't tried any of their stuff, it's fantastic. I could get you in touch with Anton. He's about my age and he's Paul's son. And he's kind of in the same boat as I am. So he'd love to come on here and talk about 45th Parallel and what they've done for us. But so, yeah, we essentially grow all the grains. We send that mash bill up to them. We've got pretty exclusive, very detailed like distilling instructions for them. And they make it all, they fill the barrels, and then we age everything on our property back just north of Madison in Dane.
Can you tell us what the mash bill is? Do you guys publish that?
Yeah. So it's 60% red heirloom corn, 14% heirloom winter wheat, 14% heirloom Spooner rye, and then 12% malted barley. And we also grow all of the wheat and rye used to produce this. We're working on starting to grow our own barley, but it's kind of funny. We're not in the greatest barley climate. It grows better farther north where it's colder. So yeah, we get it from northern Wisconsin.
Got it. I guess that makes sense then why they grow that in Scotland. So, I've just been sipping on this now, and I'm glad I got my palate warmed up. It's really nice, dude. I mean, this being one of your single barrels, but it reminds me, and it may be the wheat rye mix, but the sweetness is kind of reminiscent of some stuff that's aged in French oak. There's a certain like flavor that French oak often imparts to a bourbon. And I'm thinking that may come from the wheat component in the mash bill. But what I love tasting these unique bourbons that don't come with this heavy graininess, these off-putting notes from just young distillate. So, I mean, the age certainly helps round this sucker out. It's crazy sweet. I got like pineapple upside down cake kind of vibes off of it, caramely and pineapple and cakey.
Yeah, kind of like exotic fruits almost. I remember picking that one, and it's really exotic. I got like a lot of passion fruit, pineapple, but also some like molasses, stuff like that. And what's cool about my job is that I taste through all the barrels that are coming through our rick house that are 4.5 years or older, pretty much. And we don't, like you said, we haven't done any private picks since probably like 2017 or 2018. Just because we didn't have enough stock to actually supply like any one of our great supporters on the retail side with a private pick. And the reason for that is like, if it's not exemplary, it's not the best of the best, then we're not going to put it under that patent road label. And so I'm really looking for the cream of the crop. It's not like we're this huge company that needs to hit a certain sales number of those different products. Like, it's more of the integrity of our family. And we're putting those patent roads out because we truly think those are the best of the best. My dad kind of says this in a great way, back to the farming side of things. So we grow seed corn for other farmers. So if you sell a bag of seed to another farmer and it doesn't grow or it doesn't germinate or it doesn't work for them, they're never going to buy you another bag of your seed again.
Yeah.
You're out. And we take that same approach with all of our bourbon, but specifically those patent roads, because we want you to make sure, like, these are the best of the best, and we want you looking for them and finding them when they come out and truly having something that you enjoy.
I had a question, dude, and I lost it. Crap. Brian, you got to pick it up for me.
I don't know what question you were going to ask.
Stuff is like 120 proof, so I can see where you're coming from.
I've just had a nip of it. I remember the question. So we're on that waiting list now, right, Joe? I mean, we talked about that.
I got you guys on there, and I think what's going to be really cool with you both is that you can take that barrel and then age some coffee in it.
Dude, let's go. All kinds. Yeah, I mean, we're going to play with that because Brian and I have some competing opinions about how to age coffee, but I've got some ideas on some cool stuff we can do with that.
Do we have competing opinions? I thought you just thought that doing a barrel aged coffee was terrible.
I do think
that's
doing a
really
barrel aged coffee.
That's just your opinion on the product.
No, so I do think that you can use barrels to make coffee really, really interesting, but you do it in a different way. Either there's two ways. One is put cold brew in it for a day, but you got to keep it refrigerated, as food safety is important. The other way is to actually remove the charcoal from the staves and use it in the brewing process of hot coffee. So you don't actually introduce alcohol. That is correct. So you don't actually introduce alcohol to heat in the roaster, because that's, I think, it's off-putting to me. Other people love it. It's just fine. It's off-putting to me. But I do want bourbon-y essence all up in my coffee. That sounds great. And I think a way you can do that is by incorporating barrel char into your coffee grounds. So you grind the coffee, introduce the barrel char, and use it in the brewing process.
That's horrible. Why don't you just use a smoker?
The science works.
I want to try both methods.
Yeah, I mean, so that's fair. Nation, we got to figure out. So Joe, maybe this is incentive to do this. This is in the name of science.
Yeah.
Even if we can't do a pick,
science.
If you've got a barrel, we can make a video where Brian and I come up to Dane, and we get a barrel and we age some green coffee in it, roast that. Then we take another barrel, which it needs to be fresh. Take the charcoal, and then he and I will both brew it up. We'll use our coffee from our individual roasters, and then we'll have a competition, see who's better. And we'll make enough where we can send it out to Patreon supporters.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, we got to make this happen. It does sound like a lot of fun.
But it was all fun and games until you said it's a competition, because you're like a horrible competitor. You're like destined to win. So now you're gonna be like, boss man, bring me the geisha.
Kyle says my idea on this is not good. I think the science is better than roasting alcohol. So there's that. Bottom line is time will tell. We don't have to make it a competition. We can make it a scientific endeavor. I'm sorry. I was
a competition. Let's go.
I was raised with three brothers. Okay.
If you are on Team Drew, smash the like button. If you are on Team Brian, smash the like button. Let's go.
That's the kind of competition I'm talking about. So here's the thing. Kyle Ramage from Black and White Roasters. They do a great job. Another coffee roasting company. Kyle's in the chat. He says, my idea is not good. He's on Brian's side. He said he's tasted Brian's, which I have not, to be fair. He says, and it's good, which I need to taste Brian's. So when I'm down there, Brian, do you have any that I could swing by and pick up when I'm down there a couple weeks?
I'd have to check. We just picked up a fresh barrel because we tapped out of a couple of our last Willet barrels, and I I just picked up and dumped a fresh one. I do have
Nice.
7 ounces of milked rye from the last barrel that I'm using, but
Ooh, wow.
I don't know if
What a
I don't know
win.
if I age stuff. But I do have a myriad of various other barrel age samples from another project I've been working on.
Okay.
So yeah, I got things you can try.
Hit me with your best shot. What I will say is I will be happy to eat crow. So Tom says this is my hill to die on. So far it is, Tom, because I haven't had one that was anything but repulsive. But I've also had 2-year bourbons that were good, and generally I would totally berate somebody for releasing a 2-year bourbon. So, when somebody wins, they win. Even though it's not a win-lose thing. I'm just going to keep using that word tonight, and we're going to move on. We're going to move on because we don't have Joe for forever.
But if we did.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll come back for that.
Brian, your camera.
I know. I thought maybe it would last. It's coming back on.
Okay.
I thought maybe it was going to last for us, but it still didn't. It's okay.
Joe, let's go back to your growth now in bourbon. When was it that you started to play a role? Well, first, what year was it that you guys actually started laying down barrels?
So December of 2009
okay.
was when we first, I think we put like maybe 80 or 100 barrels away in this little old dairy barn that we weren't really using anymore on the farm. So now today we're putting away like a little over 1,200 a year. And we're growing that, every chance that we get. So in 2009, I was still in high school. So I wasn't supposed to be involved at all, if you remember our previous conversation from earlier. But I was trying my best to do what I could. I went to college at University of Wisconsin-Madison. I got a degree in business and like Spanish. And then I went and sold insurance in Chicago for like 3 years. And sort of like, did J Henry stuff on the side.
But you can't blow past that. Like, what made you go to Chicago and be like, I guess I'm going to sell insurance now?
Well, so when I graduated, I knew I always wanted to move to a big city and kind of experience that. I loved traveling since I was a little kid, even just coming up to the cabin or something like that. Like I'm always moving, So like this sales route where I cover 3 states all by myself is kind of like perfect for me, because anybody else that I talk to, of any of my friends, they're like, how did you put 50,000 miles on your car in a year? Like, well, I don't know. I just like going around and seeing different people and stuff like that. So the insurance gig was, it was never really anything I was very passionate about, but it was really like the best job I got straight out of school. Not a lot of kids have the opportunity to graduate as a 21-year-old and then start selling, several $1 million contracts to small and medium businesses. Usually you start as like an analyst or a backup or a support role or something like that. So, and I've been selling, I just loved it. I love more of like the sales and personality side of things versus like the insurance side of things. Plus my dad said, look, if you graduate right from school, you're kind of worthless if you don't get any like outside experience. So
man, thanks for the vote of confidence, Dad.
Yeah, go out there and like learn something from some other people, cut your teeth a little bit in a tough industry, in a tough city. And then when you're ready to come back, like we'll be here for you. So I did that for about 3 years. Enjoyed living in Chicago. I was doing J Henry stuff kind of on my nights and weekends, like doing tastings at Benny's and liquor stores and things like that. And then I think it was August of 2018. I just couldn't take the corporate lifestyle anymore. It's nuts. And so I just said, you know what, screw it. We need a salesperson because we just need to grow this brand. And so I just came back, kind of have slowly worked myself up and have been training with a lady named Nancy Fraley, if you're familiar with her. She also works with Still Austin. Yeah. And she just does some fantastic stuff. So we're very fortunate to have her as a consultant. She's been training me and my family in kind of the blending and tasting side of things, which I still stand by. That's part of the reason why our whiskey tastes so good, is because of that intricate blending knowledge that you take. And
yeah,
so,
isn't Nancy's nickname the Nose?
Yeah. So she comes out maybe once or twice a year, usually every 6 months. And we just sit in a room and taste all the barrels that are, like I said, 4.5 years or older. And we put those blends together. I'm taking more of a lead role in that. And she's just been a great mentor and a great friend. She's really been with us from the start. I think my dad met her at like an ADI conference in maybe 2012 or 2013. And yeah, Wig Master said she really is a genius. If you ever have an opportunity to do like a seminar or read a publication that she makes, or just listen to her talk about barrel knowledge and blending and the intricacies of this fine, delicate art, it's truly fascinating. And so like I was never really much of a scientist growing up. Like I dropped out of organic chemistry in college because it was just crazy. And now I'm like, I use this every day. Like, why didn't I go take that class? I feel like an idiot.
Hindsight's always 2020.
Yeah, exactly. But that's sort of where I'm at now. Now I'm, like I said, we're growing. We're putting away 10 times the barrels that we were putting away several years ago. We might build a distillery in the next few years, but like I said earlier, we've got a great relationship with Paul, and it's really easy for them to just kind of manage everything there. And all we got to do now is make sure it's good when it comes out and then find a way to sell it. So,
well, you guys aren't having too much trouble with that part now.
Yeah, we're sold out of everything. Like we can't even keep anything in stock. So I guess we're doing all the stuff on the back end, right? Or the front end.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you guys, we're all over the place. We're back and forth. That's fine. Nobody cares. I mean, they care in a positive way, but how do you guys respond to that then? So the growth process has gone well. You became involved in the business, as you said, kind of doing everything, but focused primarily on sales and networking. Now at the point where demand outweighs your production, what do you do now? Like, because there's kind of two things. You can produce more, but that's not so simple in bourbon. You can raise prices, but that's difficult. That brings in other considerations. So especially because you guys are already a little bit higher than maybe your immediate local competition. Quality wise, it holds up. So not too concerned about it. But how do you guys deal with this issue now?
I mean, it is a frustrating thing to have to go through, but when my parents started this, it was really more of just kind of like a hobby. And then when I jumped in and really started getting into it and working in it full time, it was more of like, look, we've got something here. We can take this to whatever level we really think it's possible. And that's sort of what my role is. So I'm helping out on the farm. I'm doing whatever I can to make sure that operation is still sustainable and still, as successful as my dad made it. And then I'm really just making sure that we're doing everything possible to grow as much as we can. Obviously, like controlled growth, because you also see a lot of people grow a little too fast. And that's the other reason we're only in really 3 markets is we want controlled organic growth. And that's almost harder, I think, than just, look, we're going to be in 50 states overnight.
Sure.
You know, because we've got people that are asking for our products all over to distribute for us all over the country.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's really, I'm not going to lie, it's really hard to say no. So I guess that's part of my job also, is to be the bad guy and just say, look, we got to focus on the people that have been loyal to us in our hometown, the people that are going to continue to support us for their entire life. And, that's really what we want to build with this brand is, it's a legacy brand for me. I'm the third generation of Henry Farms and the second generation of J Henry. And we want legacy enjoyers of our brand. Like, we don't want somebody to my earlier point about that seed corn, we don't want to sell anybody one bottle. We want to sell everybody a couple bottles every year because they like it that much. And it's a mainstay on bars. And it's something that people talk about is being extremely high quality and can compete with everything coming out from the South, where these guys have been making bourbon for, 200 some years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, so far, I think you guys are off to a great start, but I'm a little biased being that I'm from your home state. But
right.
Yeah, I do feel a little bit bad for the members of a nation out there who haven't been able to try this stuff, including Brian. But Brian, I've got a whole list of samples. Yeah, we'll figure something out. It'll be great. So just briefly interrupt. If you guys want more information on J Henry, just Google it. And Tom, being the great guy that he is, will drop that J Henry link in here one more time. Also, guys, don't forget to follow us. We're not done yet. I'm just commercializing right now. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Drew P Whiskey, at Abandoned Bourbon, at Entry Proof Podcast. And then, Joe, what's your handle?
At J Henry Bourbon.
Okay. Well, I won't direct people to you've got a hilarious username for your personal one.
Oh yeah. So there's a funny story about that. I think it's the Instagram boyfriend and my girlfriend made that for me. So it's funny. We keep on adding stuff to that page, but I forgot my password probably 4 years ago.
Oh
and it was linked to, well, I started it when I was in college. I wasn't the Instagram boyfriend at that point, but I started the handle in that page when I was in college with my student ID. And so then when I lost or forgot my password a few years later, I couldn't access it and get my password back. So I've literally gone through hours and hours of trying to get back into that page. But just so everybody knows, I cannot access it. So enjoy all the photos and all the funny things that my girlfriend.
Well, it's private. It's private, so you can't actually get in. It's 0 posts, 312 followers, including a lot of whiskey people, and nothing's on there. So yeah, but it's a picture of you.
Really unfortunate, but I think we might start a new one soon. So. Just so I can actually, be active.
Sweet. So I have got to take my normal break. This is very normal because I drink a crap ton of water. Members of Nation know this. So I'm going to turn it over to Brian, and he undoubtedly has some very tasting / hyper geeky questions for you related to how you make it and how you pick your barrels, because that's what Brian loves more than anything else in the world.
Yeah, totally.
I wasn't even going to get into that. I was going to go back to some very basic whiskey kind of questions.
Do what you're going to do, man. The floor is yours. I'll just take a back seat for a little while.
Normally when we talk about folks and we talk about their history and whiskey and what got them into whiskey, we try and ask about what kind of stuff they drink or what they kind of got into on. We've talked a lot about J Henry, and I don't want to dismiss that. Mm-hmm. But what kind of got you into just as a spirit aside from that? Is there something that got you into like whiskey that made you think, oh, this is kind of interesting? If it was aside from J Henry, and or what other things do you like to drink? If you're not sipping on J Henry, what do you lean towards?
Well, so I guess like now that I'm in this blender role and I'm training my palate to really be as refined as possible so that I can pick up, I hope someday I can be at the level of like a quarter of what Nancy Fraley's able to do, because she's a real, we're all blessed to have her in the industry. I'll just put it that way. And anything that she touches like turns to gold essentially. And so if I can pick up anything that I can from her and at some point in my life be at that level, I'll consider myself a success. The other thing that I think is kind of an interesting caveat is I started doing a lot of martial arts a few years ago. And so there's like this concept, I guess, like every martial art has their own black belt. You get a black belt in karate, you get a black belt in jujitsu, or, whatever. And it's pretty funny to think about that because I see a lot of similarities to that martial art black belt mentality that I see in what Nancy Fraley does as a master blender. And the reason I say this is, and it's like a master chess player or a master chef or anything like that. You can spend your entire life, 30, 40 years of your career just to get to that master level. And all that means is then you know all the moves, essentially. So like a black belt in jiu-jitsu, really like they've worked at that for 15, 20 years, however long it is, to get to that level. And now they just know all the moves. And that's really where all the fun starts. Because now that you know all the moves, now you can kind of put your own twist on them. You can combine them in different ways. You can branch out and do more unique, different things. And that's sort of what I know Nancy does now, is she's worked for over, I think, 30 years in this industry. And now she's able to create really cool products and do really cool things with spirits that us like normal humans are just not capable of. So that kind of long-term goal for me as a whiskey maker is well, we talked about Florida. That's why we had to reschedule this. I went to Florida last weekend for my 29th birthday. So I'm not expecting to be like a master blender or master distiller or anything for probably another 20 or 30 years. When I see a guy like Jimmy Russell, who is a true master of his craft, I mean, he's been doing this for 50 plus years and he's still doing it and he loves it. And so that's really what I appreciate about where I'm at and how I'm able and how fortunate I am to be here, is that I've got kind of a trajectory and a path where I can be making really cool, really good spirits, hopefully for the rest of my life. And hopefully it's another, 60 years. And I want to be sitting at the gift shop someday, signing some kid's bottle from some craft distillery out in Canada or wherever, you know what I mean? Because I just think that would be so cool to have that. So I know that was kind of a weird answer to your question, but that's kind of like the goal of this brand that I think about every single day, kind of in the back of my head.
Brian, the floor is still yours.
Sorry, I didn't know if you were going to jump in with anything.
No, I'm trying not to. I talk too much, so
you're allowed to talk.
I'm not saying I'm not allowed to talk. I'm saying that I talk too much. Whatever question you asked, it was a great one. I liked what I was hearing on that answer. How did we get started?
I had asked him what other things he'd been drinking that he likes to drink.
Yeah. So
yeah,
well,
Joe,
I guess,
Joe,
like,
you answer. You
was
answer.
kind of like, to go full circle is in that kind of like that goal and that trajectory and like where I'm going. Like, I try and drink in this, not to sound like an alcoholic or anything, but I try and taste and like analyze as many different spirits as possible. So when somebody tells me they like a specific bourbon for whatever reason, I want to go try that and I want to analyze it and write these notes down. And I've been drinking a lot of rum. I told you guys earlier, I've been getting into Armagnac. Cognac is another one because we have a cognac finished product. I try and understand, like, because as a distiller and as a blender, you are making something and you have a goal in mind. Like, you're not just distilling a bunch of stuff and putting it in a barrel and then like hoping it tastes good. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't have a process and a final goal in mind, then it's probably not really going to like turn out very well. So when you taste stuff from Heaven Hill or Jim Beam or Wild Turkey, these places that have been around, like they have a goal in mind of what they're trying to accomplish. And to understand that goal is why I drink, rum from the Caribbean, because they have a different goal than the Kentucky distillers. I drink a lot of Scotch because they have a different goal. A highly peated Scotch has a completely different goal in mind than a Highland Scotch, typically, and Japanese whiskey is another thing that's starting to become really, really popular that I also really enjoy. Like Mizunara oak is something that's become very controversial, but it's also, like, sadly really delicious. Because
what's controversial about it, if I might ask?
So Mizunara oak is a Japanese oak varietal. And the trees are, if you look up a picture of the trees, they're like these 100 to 200-year-old oak trees that grow in really beautiful patterns. But unlike American oak that just grow, like Quercus alba, that just grows kind of like straight up, they grow like similar to kind of like a bonsai tree almost.
Yeah, it's super craggy. Like, if you ever see a picture in a children's book of like a spooky forest with super craggy trees, it's kind of like that.
That's what they look like. And it's crazy because it takes like 200 years of growth to get these trees capable of like growing stavable oak, which means like they can harvest that tree and create barrels out of it. So it's controversial in that way because they're like extremely beautiful trees. They take a really long time to grow, but then you cut them down and you put this like cognac or Japanese whiskey or whatever in these barrels. And it has such a unique, like floral, delicate, nuanced flavor to it that it's just really, really special whenever you get to try something like that. And so that's why when I am talking about this, and I kind of feel like I'm rambling a little bit, but like that vision is why I'm trying to train myself and drink all these different things and analyze them, because you can learn so much from all these different spirits and all these different methods and all these different philosophies of different distillers and different blenders and stuff like that. So yeah, like I said, sorry for the long-winded roundabout answer, but I hope that kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to give you a hard time. I was going to say you're only 29 years old, but you answer questions like somebody who's 78. So you might consider yourself a master whatever, either
master conversationalist,
yeah. An old soul, Joe.
Yeah, definitely.
So you had mentioned before we had actually gone live, you said you're at your parents' house right now, but normally, you have a wall that kind of looks like this. When it comes to your collection, the things you like to have around, what is it? Like, what are some of your more prized bottles? Not because like, oh, it's so rare, it's worth so much money, but the bottles you're just like, oh, I freaking love this particular whiskey.
So that Delord 25, and I don't know. Hopefully you guys don't go buy it all because it's really good and it's kind of like a hidden gem. It's amazing. So that's one that I like to keep on. I really like to keep a bottle of just kind of Macallan, like 12 or 18, when I'm looking for like my sweet tooth sort of thing. That really deep sherry finish is really nice. There is a Japanese whiskey called Ichiro out of the Chichibu distillery. And they do some really good stuff with a lot of different oak finishes. It's one of my go-to distilleries. Also, Kavalan from Taiwan is some stuff that I really like. Their Vino Barrique Soloist bottle is one of my like top 3 whiskeys of all time. The Octomores from Bruichladdich are all really good, but specifically like the 7.03. I've been like seeking out those bottles. And some stuff from Ardbeg, I kind of want that full spectrum. I've got some a really unique barrel that I got from Gene at Warehouse Liquors in Chicago. So if anybody's in the Midwest, go definitely talk to Gene.
Yeah, Warehouse is a cool place.
It's a really cool place. And Gene knows a ton about like really interesting, unique whiskeys like this. And he gave me this bottle of plantation rum from 1996 that I think was finished in a Lafroig cask for a few years. So it's this really sweet molassesy Caribbean rum that is finished in this really heavy, peaty, smoky barrel. And it's just got so much complexity playing around with it. That's actually what I'm going to go have after this, So
sounds pretty good.
Me.
So I find this interesting, and maybe you can break this down for us, but I just asked, what bottles do you really jam on? You didn't name a single American whiskey. Here's the thing about coffee. Like I don't tend to drink other people's coffee. Like I don't buy it because I'm really competitive. Clearly, we've made that very clear on this podcast already. But it's like, I'm working hard to hustle for my company and I love our coffee. So is that how you feel about bourbon, or is it just like, no, you're just really into this exploration?
Yeah, to some extent I do. I mean, I mentioned earlier that I'm good friends with all the Wisconsin guys, and I'll, do my best to support them and plug them whenever I can. I think I try and support the craft side a little more than the Kentucky distillers because they don't need as much love, so to say.
Sure.
Brown Foreman's going to be fine if I don't go buy a bottle of, you know what I mean? Heaven Hill is going to be okay if I don't go buy a bottle of Henry McKenna tomorrow. So I love their whiskey. And I have a lot of Evan Williams. I have some Wild Turkey. I've got Four Roses. I've got several different barrel picks of Four Roses just because I love their yeasts and their mash bills and the different combinations you can get from some of that.
Yeah, you're talking to 2 Four Roses junkies right now.
Yeah, it's really easy to turn into a Four Roses junkie.
Yeah.
The thing that I find for myself is when I'm drinking any other bourbon, I really feel like I'm working all the time, if that makes sense, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But I took your question as like, what do you enjoy? What do you like sip on to kind of relax and hang out? And so that's why I gravitate towards like other spirits, because if I drink, even when I'm hanging out and partying and like doing shots at a bar with my friend of Wild Turkey 101, my brain just kind of like immediately goes into like cherry, oak, chocolate, caramel. And I like can't help myself from like analyzing it and seeing, okay, what are they doing? How do they do that? What can I do better? So I like, yes, I drink a lot of it and I enjoy it. But when I'm really trying to like kick back and relax, you know, I gravitate towards other things.
Yeah, that's interesting. I find that really interesting because I would be like, oh, I got to analyze this. That's fun. But I don't have to analyze bourbon for my job. You know, it's a hobby.
You know?
I do have to analyze coffee, you know, and so like anytime I drink somebody else's coffee, of course, the same kind of thoughts go through my mind as what you just articulated. Interesting.
Yeah, it's just kind of a weird, I don't know, I can't help myself.
That's fine. Yeah. I mean, the things that we're like passionate about influence us. And when we're trying to unwind from those things because they tend to take a lot out of us, normally we don't want more of it.
You guys are both small business owners. You know, it's like a 24/7 thing, right?
Yeah.
Right. So
well, dude, we're at 9:17, so I don't want to impose upon your time. You know, normally we go for an hour and a half or so, but just want to check in here. How are you doing on time?
I'm good. If we got, you know, any other questions, I can definitely answer them from the group.
Yeah. We'll get you out of here. I don't
want to keep like lecturing people about my weird habits of whiskey drinking either.
Dude, that's the most fun. That's why we do this, is because like the whiskey is interesting, but the whiskey is only interesting because like the people are interesting. So that's kind of what we do with these conversations. Is it's more about your deal, like and what you're into, and you know your path, and you know what you're trying to do with your brand, like all that's super interesting. So,
well, let me read a couple of these comments because I think Eric here made a really good point. Eric Thompson. Yeah, I would never say that Jimmy Russell or, you know, Booker Beam are not craftsmen in their craft. Like they're the epitome of high craft. They do this better than anybody in the world. And that's kind of a funny thing to mention because it takes so much to get into making this stuff. I always kind of make the analogy that whiskey making and distilling is sort of the intersection of science and art, because distillation, fermentation, that's an extremely scientific process. It's all organic chemistry, like I was saying earlier. It's all heat and pressure and time. You know, it's really kind of, I wouldn't say it's rigid. There's still an art to it, but it's very, very scientific. Whereas the aging side of this and the barrel maturation, what actually happens over 5 years or however many years when you're just letting a barrel sit there, and then you taste some of this stuff and you try and put these blends together, that's really where the art comes in. So it's really fun for me. And I'm glad you brought that up, Eric, to have that intersection of science and art and to create something that is craft. And really, like, those guys in Kentucky are the best craftsmen at this on the planet. You know, that's why they've been around for 200 plus years. That's why I try and learn as much as I can from them, because we've only been around for like a decade. You know, I've got a ton to learn, and I really would love to learn as much as I can from whomever I can.
Great. We've had a few questions about distribution. You mentioned 3 markets, obviously Wisconsin. You know, we get J Henry and Spotted Cow, and the rest of the world gets none. But what are the other markets that you guys are available in? Illinois?
So we're in Illinois and we're in Minnesota. We're hoping to expand out of that within the next couple of years. But unfortunately, you know, you can't make this stuff overnight. It takes time. It's about 6 years from when we put a kernel of corn in the ground to when we have a bottle of bourbon ready. So it takes we'd love to be an international brand, but it does take a little bit of time and effort, and we're trying to slowly expand and really get that slow organic growth.
Yeah. PSFH, or no, it's PSF hybrid. You guys with your usernames, they're hard. He just hits you with a question that all our followers want to know, and that is, are we getting a J Henry pick? And the answer to PSF hybrid is that we're on the wait list. No one's getting picks right now. And Joe, why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Because that's a tough call. Like, some folks prioritize this. You guys have said, like, we're trying to take care of our retail outlets. So, I reached out to you and said, hey man, I'd love to do a barrel pick. I want to support, Wisconsin. I've also reached out to some other Wisconsin distilleries and working with some folks. But, you were at the top of my list, and you're like, I'd love to. I'll put you on our list, but, why don't you break that down for folks?
Yeah. So earlier on, probably 5 or 6 years, or not 5 or 6, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, in like 2016, 2017, we had a lot more Patent Road barrels available, just because of, I don't really know why. It's sort of funny. Maybe our tasting standards have gotten higher, and we've put less barrels into that program. The reason we haven't done a lot of picks is not because we're trying to like hold anything back from you fans or anybody in this group. It's simply because when I'm tasting stuff, I don't want you to be disappointed with a pick or feel like you've got something average or feel like you've got something that anybody else could go buy at a liquor store. Like, I want you to get something that's truly unique, truly special, and truly of the highest quality and caliber that we can possibly produce. And we've just not been able to find enough of those barrels to accommodate all the requests that we're getting. So I know that's probably not the answer that everybody wants to hear. Like, I wish I could just go dig around in my rick house and find you like 5 barrels to pick from right now.
Hey, we'd be happy to go dig around in your rick
I was
house.
gonna say, you said you started in 09, right? So you got
go dig around.
You got 11-year barrels somewhere.
I just want everybody to understand that it's not because we don't want you to have a private pick.
That's super important. Yeah.
We want you to make sure that it's really, really a special experience for you.
Yeah. And
I think what would make it special for us is if we got to like bypass everyone else on the wait list, and that would be very special. And it's
you gotta talk to my mom and dad about that. It sounds
11-year
saying that, but it's like, okay, I gotta ask permission from my parents.
Well, I met your mom. I'll send her another email.
You're at your parents' house right now, right? Go grab them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Mom,
Mom,
can I get a meatloaf?
Can I get a barrel pick?
Mom, I got some questions for you.
Come talk to my friends. This is good. This is gonna unwind quickly. Anyway, also, like, you guys do have to ride this balance of, listen, we've got people who've been with us since the start who are selling our standard stuff, and we're just trying to fill bottles right now. And as you said, nobody saw the bourbon booming to the extent with which it's boomed. Like, the boom has been the biggest boom that anybody could have thought might boom.
Yeah.
And so, like, the clamor, and I mean, the chat's blowing up with, you've sold plenty of bottles tonight, like, of people who want to try this stuff. And, that's one of the glories of media, is that, you can go reach an audience right away just talking about your stuff. And as I said right away, it's about the story, people's stories. Like, that's right. There's so many bottles on the shelf, so many craft distilleries. It's really about, like, oh, this dude really cares about what he's doing. And it's good, it's got to be both. And you guys do both. And when there's both, there's going to be a lot of clamor for your product. And then you just got to decide, how do we handle this? And some folks have been like, we're going to keep doing the picks. And other folks have been like, we just got to get the product on the shelf for our distributors, because they're the ones who brung us to this dance.
Right.
And that's a tough line to walk,
I guess because you mentioned the boom. So like everybody's bourbon has been strong for the last 10 years is really kind of when it started blowing up. I guess the approach that we're taking is that we don't want to just be a strong product or a strong brand during a booming industry swell, essentially. And that's really why we're very careful about what we put out, the quality of everything we put out. Like, we don't want this boom to slow down and then have our brand slow down, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
We want to be boom, bust, recession resilient, everything. We just want to be a strong brand that people know and love. And I really hope that what we're doing as a brand, I've got 1,000 barrels of 3-year-old whiskey in my house, in my rick house, that I could bottle up and, sell you a barrel of, and you could do a barrel pick of 3-year-old bourbon. But like, would you be happy with that? You might be. You've said you've liked some 2 to 3-year-old bourbon in the past, but is it really going to be as good if we wait another 2 years and then we can do it and it feels right for everybody?
100%. Yeah.
And that's sort of like the patience that we have as farmers that I think a lot of other people in this industry don't really have.
Yeah. And I'd say it's appreciated for sure, or at least it's appreciated by me. I get the balance. Like, there are trade-offs in every business. You got to do what you got to do. And the best thing to do is do it with integrity and say, here's why. And I don't know if it's right. The right answer is, there's no right and wrong here. It's just here's what it is. And we're doing our level best. So if you don't like it, you can suck it. And
I mean, we're completely transparent about everything. Like, we don't hide the fact that we don't have a distillery on the farm. I mean, a lot of people, when we first came out, they thought that was going to be like a huge problem for us. And we just said, no, we want to make really good whiskey. We want to be transparent with the people that are interested in our product. We want to tell them everything that they want to know. And I'm an open book. Like, if you're able to come by the farm and I'm around, if I'm not running my sales route or anything like that, I mean, I'll answer any questions. I've tried to answer everybody's questions as honestly as possible and really give you as transparent an answer of what we're trying to do, where we're trying to go, and kind of the vision for this brand. And I hope that's why people are gravitating towards us. Yeah,
it's certainly not going to hurt. Does anybody else have any questions for Joe before we let him go? Otherwise, you're welcome to hang out. Normally we go till 10. We try and cut people off, but it depends on what they're willing to talk about. Brian and I can talk about whiskey for literally ever. Like, the first time we ever chatted, it was like a 2.5-hour conversation.
Really?
Yeah. So we can just keep going. We got infinite questions. But does anybody else on the chat have anything before we give Joe the green light, if he's got things to do, which most of us do, since he's technically still working?
Well, I could stay all night, but I've also been working on the farm all day and I haven't really eaten much. So I'll answer any questions. You've got my email as well.
Yep.
If anybody does want to make a trip out to the farm, or if they have any additional questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I love talking about this stuff just as much as you all have. But I have drank a little bit of whiskey, and I think if I stay on for another 2 hours, I'll probably pass out in this chair.
Yeah, we're not. Yeah, we wouldn't go for 2 more hours. It's just 2 hours total. We have day jobs, and Brian's on Eastern time. So, All right, squad. Here's what we're gonna do. If you're a Patreon supporter and you're interested in a J Henry sample, just go ahead and send me a message on Patreon, and I will include a sample in your next little gift shipment, whether that's the 3-month or 6-month. So I'm just feeling particularly generous, and I know I can go get a backup bottle. So if you're a Patreon supporter and you want a sample, DM me on Patreon, and I will put one in your shipment. You're welcome. Other than that, Joe, dude, thanks for the time. Appreciate it. It was a great chat. Good to learn, even more about the brand and your passion for it, your role in it, and where you're headed. Because I think everybody's pretty jacked for it.
Yeah, this was super fun, guys. Let me know when you want to come out and shoot a show at the farm.
Yeah, we will 100%, and we'll try and figure out some coffee stuff to do too.
Totally.
I think everybody would be pretty jacked for that as well.
I think that not competition is going to be a lot of fun.
Right. Yeah. I mean, obviously it's not a competition. I never compete for anything. But all right, dude. Well, feel free to jump off and we'll wrap it up from here. But just thanks again. I know everybody super engaged in the chat tonight. So I know we all were really enjoying that conversation.
Tell my mom I did a good job.
You got it, man. No problem.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Don't hesitate to reach out, and I'll hopefully see y'all soon.
See you, Joe.
Absolutely. Cheers.
Bye, man.
Dude, if we don't get an 11 year.
An 11, they've never released anything more than 8.
Yeah, but imagine if they did.
Yeah, to the Anti-Proof group.
Nation.
Yeah, we'll see. So we're on the list, Nation. We're trying. We're working a few avenues to get some more barrel picks. We're on the short list for Middle West. I pinged them today to see if we could get an update because they said probably late July, which we are fast approaching. So Middle West is likely the next one we're going to have out of Ohio. And then I'm working a few more Wisconsin. I mentioned I really like that Limousine Rye, trying to get one of those. We'll see. And I'm being just fully transparent here. I haven't talked with anybody there. I sent them an email. And then Driftless Glen would also be one that does a lot of picks. So we'll see. But we're doing what we can do to try.
Yeah, the bummer too. I was having drinks with one of my bar guys the other day, and he was telling me that he got offered another Russell's pick, but he just got a Russell's pick. But I was like, but my problem is what you and I have talked about before off air and a little bit on is I don't have a logistical way for his bar to put it through Sealbox and to make sense. So I was literally offered a Russell's pick for Nation, but because of you, Drew, I cannot bring it to Nation.
What do you mean because of me? What do you mean?
I don't actually know. It's nothing really.
You're blaming on me.
I mean, I think he said he accepted it. I'll probably take it for one of my other groups. So I will still get it, but I don't know.
Anybody who has access to Kentucky might be able to work with Brian to get a little access to that. So here's the thing: is like the problem with the channel is we got to make it available nationally. Sealbox does craft whiskeys, exclusively. So Blake is going to be good with us for most craft whiskeys, but we don't have a national like barrel pick retail partner yet. So maybe at some point. But we're relatively fresh, so we're taking it a day at a time. One way that you can help us be not quite as fresh, I mentioned already, patreon.com/entryproofpodcast. There's also a couple things in the chat. I finally got the Kenzie Tasters up on my little Etsy store. That's another way you can, if you need more of the Entry Proof whiskey glasses. Brian, I've got your set aside. Don't worry. I'm bringing them.
I just have to drink out of some stupid old Forester glasses.
No, that's stupid. Anyway.
Stupid.
This is not going to focus. But anyway, there's a picture. There's a link in the show notes below. That's where you can get one of the first T-shirt releases that I did. And then these tasting glasses. And then working on the second T-shirt release, which Patreon supporters of a certain tier will get for free. I actually posted a preview, the first draft of the artwork today on Patreon. And then those will go to 6-month supporters of a certain tier and above for free. And then you will be able to purchase them if you would like when I finally get them up. But we're getting ready to send out the second round of Patreon gifts. So the second wave of Patreon supporters is about to get their tasting glasses. And then very shortly after that, we'll get these new T-shirts in. It'll be swell. Be awesome. In the meantime, Brian, what kind of, you've been dropping some serious reviews. You've been doing what, 2 a week on your channel?
There was a couple of weeks where I did, and I've gone back to 1 a week just because of cost to acquire content, so me.
But you've got tons in your basement.
Well, but the thing is, you and I haven't really talked about this, but When it comes to the stuff I wanted to do, right? It's more vlog style. I don't care that I have a bar in the background or whatever, or the history necessarily. I just want to do videos, but I don't want it to always be things that are not obtainable. And I don't want it to always be SaaS products and stuff, because I don't really enjoy that. Right. And so, we just have had a stream of some newer releases or a couple of older things. And so I'm just trying to get a feel for it. I think the New Riff malted rye is coming up next, or at least soon in the running. My buddy's going to let me pop his Blue Run 14 year. And I think I'm going to put that 14 year up against some of the single barrels that I've tried. So that would be cool to see how the batch lines up. And then folks, a lot of people have been asking about the Russell's 13 putting it against some other things. So I might do a legit blind of Russell's 13, the William Heavenhill 13. I was going to put in the Four Roses, one of the Four Roses LEs, even though it's a little bit harder to attain. I wanted to actually put it up against something that is top tier. And then hold on, I had another list of something I was going to do. When you look through the whiskey YouTube, it's a lot of people like best budget under 25, best this, like all the lists of stuff.
I don't know what that's like.
A lot of groups do that, and I it's fine for those who do. I just don't want to be throwing rocks in an echo chamber. And like me, there's like a price point that I feel like anything below it's going to be okay at best.
It is what it is. Yeah.
And I just feel like, why not? Like, I also believe that you have diminishing returns the more money you spend in majority of things. But there's a pocket, and I'd like to maybe stay in the new and or in that pocket, not dabble in the cheap stuff, and then maybe just occasional other things. Anyway, so I thought about also doing a blind, maybe with the Stellum bourbon with Rare Breed, and then maybe go ahead and put Elijah Craig barrel proof in there, a Knob Creek, maybe 1792 full proof, 1920. Nice. So I got a couple of random things I thought about doing, but we'll see.
Sweet, man. That sounds great. I've got some Scotch videos coming up. So I know we talked a little bit about Scotch tonight. Speaking of lists, you can suck it, Brian. I'm going to do speaking of echo chamber, we all did, except for Brian, because he has integrity, did the only 5 bourbon whiskeys you need videos. I did one of those. Then we did a live stream after ADHD. Matt Porter was like, hey, you should do this other list. And we're like, okay, fine. I'm going to do one for Scotch. And then after that, I'm going to do a deep dive on the Scotch Malt Whiskey Society concept, because I think it's dope. Also, it is a partnership. So it's a paid collaboration, full transparency. That said, it doesn't diminish how rad I think it is. And I'd say it holds weight because I've refused other partnerships that I thought were stupid. And they are awesome. So I'm going to do a video with them. And then I am going to make hopefully either a series or a large film. And I don't know which I'm going to do yet. I'd love to hear your feedback, because those of you who are still in the chat are probably the nation faithful. So there's 2 options. I'm taking this trip with my dad and my brother. We're going through Kentucky. We're golfing and we're doing distilleries. And so I'm going to chronicle that journey. So would you prefer it in one super long film, or which would probably be somewhere in the range? I mean, I got to imagine it's going to be an hour and a half at least, or a day by day, like 7 episode series. What would you like? Give me your feedback. It's gonna have golf stuff in it. So those of you who are part of Swing Nation, you're gonna jive pretty hard on that. but then we're also going to talk about bourbon. It's literally going to be documentary style.
You got to put some polls or something up in the Patreon so that you have some engaging content for them. You know what I mean? You gotta see what they just ask a poll there so they can.
I shared the draft of the shirt artwork there earlier, but yes, I will. But if any of you have any thoughts on here, I have no doubt the episodes would perform better. They're going to get more views than a single video would. But at the same time, I didn't get into this just to score big views. So, and I wouldn't make a bourbon golf mashup if I was trying to go viral.
You saw my message that I got you a Willet tour, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So that's booked, or do I need to?
It's booked and it's comped. So.
Oh wow. Cheers, man. So is that, yeah.
I think Shelby probably expects that I'm going to be there, but it's probably under my name.
Okay.
But I did say my friend Drew and his dad and brother are coming through, and she's like, can't wait to see you. I'm like, okay, well, you won't, but maybe I'll try and make a drive out there and just get some food at least.
Yeah. Well, and they would love to meet you. You're an interesting dude. So.
Oh.
The most interesting man in the world. It is. It's 100%. Like, I've never seen somebody drink a milkshake like that. I was just enthralled with your milkshake. I told Brian he should have just had the milkshake on the stream.
You guys, I don't know where all they have Jaggers. Is there a Jaggers?
I don't know what a Jaggers is. No, I don't know what that is. Never heard of it.
In the chat, I want to hear the chat if you've been to a Jaggers. Here's the deal. There's a group called City Dining Louisville for it that started during COVID, right? To support small businesses and whatever. I don't know. I have no clue what this place is. I'm sure it's a chain. Maybe it's not. I think it was started by the people who did Texas Roadhouse. But it's called Jaggers. And they have burgers and milkshakes and chicken tenders. And usually, Drew, when it's Thursdays, somehow when we're recording, Kristen's like, I just need some Jaggers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, I can go through the drive-thru and get some Jaggers before the podcast. And I either don't eat it until after we get done recording. So I let it sit for like 3.5 hours.
And it's late at that point.
But I got chicken tenders and honey mustard as if I was still 17 years old. Nice. And that's what I ate tonight.
It sounds so good.
Chocolate milkshake, and it was it. And I just, Nation, you should have seen it. The 30 minutes prior to recording, I was just, I mean, obviously, my camera's in high def. I'm just 4K eating these golden chicken tenders
right in my face,
just slurping, just ASMRing this. Chocolate milkshake,
deep throating.
Yes. So, if you're interested in a video for Nation on Patreon of me eating chicken tenders and a shake, please let us know.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, no doubt. Speaking of which, Michael Flores just joined the Patreon community. So thanks, Michael. And you know what? In my next video, I'm going to shout out some Patreon supporters. I don't want to clutter up videos, but at the same time, Tom Lynch, Liberty Not Licensed, Eric Sawyer, Eric Thompson, I think is a supporter as well. Who else in the chat? I apologize if I don't remember who all. There is an Evans. I don't know if it's M. Evans, but there is an Evans who supports. Yeah. William Wiley, I will tell you, sure.
When Eric Sawyer came to town, he brought me some beers. And let me tell you something I forgot. So we may not have even talked about this that much. I was driving up to 450 North. They're in Columbus, Indiana, because it's slightly on the way to to Indianapolis. So if I have to take our coffee delivery to the cafe in Indianapolis, I can just detour and go through there. They do like slushy styles, Berliner Weiss sours, and all this stuff. But it's hard. They're hard to get. It takes a long time to wait for them. They're kind of pricey. And some of my friends in Cincinnati have been drinking this company called Untitled Art, which is from Muskogee. I don't know if that's right or not. But anyway.
No, I don't think that's right. But
well, he brought me a can, and then I was just like,
Swanakee.
Wanakee. I love Untitled Art. They're really clean versions and better flavored than a majority of the 450 stuff. 450 is really puree heavy. It's thick. Anyway, I found out. So the distributor folded who would potentially bring Untitled Art to Kentucky. So I don't have it here. But right across the river in Indiana, they do. And there's a place that has a whole shelf of Untitled Art stuff. So I've been able to drink some of that. But yeah, the other night I got to drink. I think I've finally drank through everything that Eric brought. And they've all been incredibly fun. So greatly appreciate that.
Sweet. Nice. All right. Well, squad, lots of good content headed your way for sure. Thank you all for the feedback on the videos. I will do episodes. And listen, like, I know some of you aren't fans of golf, but you're fans of the channel. And so I promise I'm going to make it entertaining. It's going to be a story about family that involves bourbon and golf. I think we all can get behind that, right? I mean, like, this is a dream trip for me. Like 6 days in Kentucky with my youngest brother. I wish all my brothers would be there. We'll play one round with my oldest brother. The brother just below me. I'm number 2 out of 4. Number 3, he's not going to be able to make it, but I'll have my dad and my youngest brother going through bourbon country, and playing golf. And that to me is a joy. And I don't know how often I'm going to get opportunities like that before one of us is dead. It happens. People die. So just the things in life that you value, I'm jacked for that. And I wanted to try and capture it. So if that sounds good to you, watch a dang video. If the golf is an utter aversion, I can't help you.
You know what? I'm going to throw some out here and I don't know if it's going to happen, but as much as I hate Swing Nation, and it has been known. So my dad started chemo last week, and all he does is sit in a chair all the time. And I asked him yesterday, I said, hey, could you handle if I drove you around in a golf cart? And he's like, what do you mean? Like, what? He's like, maybe. Why? I was like, well, you just are always sitting here, and you're obviously like, not doing so hot. I was like, what if I like just drove you around the golf course? I'm like, you could just like watch me play. And he's like, that sounds like some sort of punishment. And I was like, well, maybe it is. You know what? Maybe it is. So Swing Nation, if you'd like to see a video documentation of me tormenting my father, shooting a 250 on some random, maybe I'll book Valhalla. I don't know. Yes. Some random golf club here, taking my dad around in a horrific fashion. If you would like to see that vlogged, let me know.
Yeah, let me know. I want to see it.
Because I'd like to say, hey, John, these people you don't know want to see that happen.
Yeah. Well, I want to see it. I mean, that's clear. And Valhalla would be awesome. Valhalla is a private club. I actually looked at, like, could I get around there while I'm down there? There are many great courses. There's one called Neville Mead, east of Louisville, that we're going to play. And then
you got to play the one that I played with Drew.
Oh, we're going to play there. Heritage Hill. Yeah.
Heritage Hill, dude. That's so fun.
Yeah. So Neville Mead, we're going to play. That's east of Louisville. That's going to be our first day in the area. So let me just run you through it. If you're still with us, hang tight. Shepherd's Crook, which is just over the Wisconsin-Illinois border. My brother and I are going to play there first morning. Then we're driving to Louisville. This is bonus content for you guys. Then we're going to wake up. My dad's meeting us in Louisville that night. We're going to wake up the next morning and play Neville Mead on the east side. And then we're doing Old Forester and Evan Williams bourbon experience and just hanging out in Louisville, eating good food, doing our thing. The next morning, we're going to wake up early and play one of the local munis, which is starts with a V. Shoot. I got it all written down. Hang with me, guys. Wait for it. I know you care so much about this, especially you, Tom. Ventnor, the Ventnor course.
Charlie Ventnor?
Yep, that's the one.
Sweet. There's a disc golf course over there.
Yep. So that's one of the highest regarded munis in Louisville. We're going to play that. And then we're driving out to Four Roses. We're going to do the Four Roses distillery tour. Then we're driving down to Bardstown. and we're gonna do the barrel thieving tour. Then we're going over to Willett for dinner. Then we're driving back to Louisville. That's all in one day. The next morning, we're waking up playing Heritage Hill with my older brother, who's moving to Tennessee. He's going to meet us up, play Heritage Hill. Then we'll grab a lunch, and then we'll go on that Willett tour that you just booked for us. Spend the night in Bardstown. The next morning, we're going to play a Pete Dye designed course in Lexington, Kearney Hills. So Pete Dye, I've never played a Pete Dye course. Other notable Pete Dye courses are Whistling Straits in Sheboygan, which costs $1 billion to play. That's why I haven't played it. And TBC Sawgrass, where they play the Players Championship, another Pete Dye course. You may have heard of it. Yeah, so we're going to play that. And then going up to Cincinnati for the New Riff Tour. And stop by the Party Source, then get dinner that night with our boy, TFL dad, Tom Lynch.
Dude, you should try and check out Boone County.
May do that as well. Tom, we might need to do that.
I heard they have a bunch of their like 6-year weeders and stuff there.
I liked that.
You should definitely swing by. It's at least the gift shop. It's on the way back.
Yeah, that sounds great. I think I lost 10 viewers in that golf diatribe.
I'm not surprised. I'm surprised you didn't lose more.
Dude, I love it so much.
Have you ever thought about maybe like not loving it?
No.
So much?
No, that'd be like asking me to not love my family. I'd be like, well.
Have you ever thought about not loving your family?
No. I mean, there are times I get tired. And there are times I get tired of golf. Like when you get the shanks. Let me tell you about the shanks.
Oh, is that like the runs?
I mean, it's worse than the runs. Like, there's nothing worse than when you're out there on the golf course and you hit you're hitting hosel rockets repeatedly and you don't know why.
I can think of a lot of things worse than that.
I can't. It's a terribly frustrating feeling. Like I get the runs, I get IBS, I get crampy bowel movements that are agony, and the shanks are worse. All right. Tom says, "Can we make Eric Sawyer a wrench?" I can't take this. Yeah, we should make Eric Sawyer a wrench. Here we go. Wait. Good grief. Oh, whoops.
Wow, I didn't realize you could do those things. You could have been doing this like every single stream.
Yeah, I
like
could've.
All the famous people do. Oh my jeez.
All the famous people.
Looking at license, you may not be fully aware of how much drinking can happen on the golf course. I will say, when I showed up to golf with Drew from Willett, I had myself a goodie bag that included Miller Lights and like a Gatorade and some water, and I think some snacks or something crap like that. I don't know.
So Casey Jones, he says that hosel rockets are too much in to out. False, actually. When I go too much out to in, that's actually when I hosel rocket. So in to out is, that draw swing. If I'm doing that well, then I don't tend to hosel rocket. So. Eric Thompson, golf, cigars, bourbon, and beer. So I'm not normally a cigar guy, but I'm going to pick some up for my trip. Any recommendations you guys have for a beginner cigar guy? I got to pick them up, for my dad and my brother. Let me know. I would appreciate it.
I won some cigars last night.
From where? I saw you post that earlier.
Just in one of my local groups, played in a little raffle.
Nice.
Played a little raffle.
But I meant like from what brand of cigars are they?
Let me try and figure them all up again. I think they're all Cubans. Some various Cuban brands.
Cuban.
So let's see what all I got.
So you got good cigars, or are they knockoff Cubans?
No, my buddy said they're all good.
Nice.
I got I don't know what these things are. So here's the deal, Nation. I, as someone who appreciates like flavor and stuff, when I hear a lot of people talk about cigars, they talk about them in flavor and they talk about them in their body. I understand the concepts of the stuff because of coffee, because of chocolate, whiskey, because of other things, wine. But maybe it is still different because every time I smoke a cigar, you want to know what it tastes like? Not flavor. It tastes like smoke. And I don't get it. And I don't know if I'm supposed to get to like the last third of every cigar, but sometimes it's kind of hard. I will say I did have fun at the Starlight Cigar blend release. Not only was the blend just funky and interesting, but we just sat there. It was good weather, had some food, some drinks, and a smoke. So it was nice.
Yeah, that's really the main appeal, I think.
But so anyway, going back to your question, I got some Bolivars, an Epicure Deluxe. There's a couple of these I've definitely not smoked before. An Upman Magnum 54.
I know about Magnums.
Oh, stop. You stop. I mean, to be fair, this would also stop this would be a contraceptive as well, because Kristen would be like, "You're smoking, you're not sleeping."
Yeah.
In the house tonight.
Yeah, my wife, same.
Anyway, I've been intrigued by it, but I still just can't get it out. It's the same thing with Scotch. Like, I've tried some, it just doesn't. I just can't get into it.
Liberty Not Licensed says he's had a few from Alec Bradley, which, I mean, they've done some stuff with the Bourbon Junkies. So I thought about looking into them. And Macanudo Cigars sponsors a golf podcast I listen to. So I was going to look them up. I figure, but I mean, I trust Nation. I mean, you guys clearly trust us for some reason. So I should trust you guys if you have any cigar recommendations. So slide into my IG DMs if you have any cigars you would recommend. That would be swell. Preferably ones I can order. Prime, not necessary. Real quick, I had something I needed to address here. Oh, Casey Jones. Maybe you're standing too close to the ball. Your swing's too much in to out. There's a lot of innuendos we can unpack. We won't. Bottom line is, I don't shallow my club head before I begin my downswing. So I'm coming over to the top is the issue. My setup is pretty good. I worked with the swing coach on the setup. It's that if I'm too tight in my wrists and I'm too quick in the downswing, not paced out enough, too eager in transition, come over the top and coming in hosel first. But if I just give it a little pause, then allow that club head to square up, striping them. So mainly when I get nervous or early in the round, I'm prone to the shanks, or if I get super tired. But about holes 3 to 12, I'm golden.
These are the shanks.
Yeah. No? I don't know what that is, but so real quick on cigars, and then we'll wrap it up here because we've totally devolved. I appreciate people hanging with us. It's been a fun chat, though. I've enjoyed it. Joseph Magnus, I saw that was in the chat earlier. I've not. Yeah. Oh, I have had triple cask. Enjoyed it, but the cigar blend, Magnus cigar blend, unbelievable. So good. Really,
what
really
makes
good.
it cigar blend? Do they just call it that?
Yeah, they just call it that. No, they just call it that.
I'd like one. I'd like to
yeah, the label is dank, and then the bourbon was fantastic. I need to try and get one because I thought it was phenomenal.
You're gonna need a lighter and a cutter.
A lighter and a what?
A cutter. Don't just like get some cigars and be like, cool, we're gonna smoke now.
Right. You gotta light the thing. I mean, I've got some Bic lighters for my grill.
It's not gonna do it, dude. Come on now. Ask him for some matches at least if you're gonna.
Yeah,
go
I'll get a kit.
You should get a cutter.
I do not have a cutter, so that's good to know. I'm gonna put that on my list.
Go to your local cigarrery. So they call them cigarreries.
No, I mean I almost trust Nation.
Someone's gonna be like, "Are you gonna want to punch it?
Guys.
Are you gonna want a V cut? Are you gonna want to punch it?" I just cut it straight. But I got a lot of people that are into the punch right now. I got even more friends that are into the V's right now.
You can use a golf tee for the punch.
Yeah, you could probably make it work. Probably
make that work. Cutter, lighter. We get a Drew P whiskey engraved Zippo lighter. That would be dank.
Dude, Zippos, how old are you?
I mean, I'm 31.
How old are you?
They're awesome. Hey, you ever do that little flick move where you pop it open just by the squeeze?
Of course.
I was
you do on the pant leg? Do you ever do the tut on your pant leg? You know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
The pant leg one is where you go on the downstroke and it puts the lid off, and then the upstroke and it strikes it. So you blop blop on your leg and it's on.
No, I never learned that. I mean, I had a Zippo when I was 18, and I had no reason.
All the time.
I had no reason to have a Zippo. I didn't smoke. I just had it.
Well, yeah,
I
it's the
just
same reason we
burn
bought
things.
Playboy Bunny stickers
I
and
did
put
not
them on
do
everything. Oh,
Yeah.
me either.
Yeah, that's not a thing that would have been permissible.
They were at the roller rink. They're at the roller rink.
Oh,
Yeah,
you mean those little dispensers? Yeah.
at the dispensers, you could pay to get the reflective, no, not halogen. What are they called? Holographic
Yeah.
Playboy Bunny stickers.
But was that a thing among your friends that was just like a thing you guys did?
Dude, I don't know. I don't know what friends are. Never did, never will.
Okay. All right. Well, squad, thanks for hanging with us so long. We are wrapping it up. It was a great chat with Joe. Props to him for coming on. J Henry stuff is good if you can get your hands on it, especially these patent road releases. Proof really, I mean, helps bring body, I think. And it's a solid pick. So hope we can get one at some point. Otherwise, we'll just stick to doing some coffee bourbon collabs. I think we'll get a pick before too long. We'll see. All right, y'all. Have a good night. Do your thing. Live your life. Seek joy. Stay happy. Stay healthy. Stay safe. And remember to keep it neat, y'all. See you later.
Cheers, guys.